Hey, welcome to part 5 of the Hexi Cardi Crochet along. We have already finished one side, so we are now going to go on to the second side. Hopefully you've written down how many rows you need to do this, so let's do the setup and then I'll leave you to it to finish the rest of the rows. And yeah, so we are going to start with our magic ring. So just lay the yarn over, wrap it round, make a cross, and then get your hook, go under, over, pull, twist, and then chain one. Then give it a little pull. We don't really want it that loose, do we? And then we're going to do 2 chains, 1, 2, and then we're going to do our first cluster. Now remember, a cluster is 3 doubles, but because we've got a chain 3 to start with, we just need to do 2 doubles. 1, 2. Then we're going to do a chain 2, 1, 2. Then we're going to do another cluster of 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to do chain 2, 1, 2. Then we're going to do another cluster of 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to chain 2 again, do another cluster, 1, 2, 3. How many have we got? 1, 2, 3. Oh, we've got enough for a granny square. Keep going for the hexy part. 1, 2, 3. We need 6 clusters for the hexy. So one more, 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to do a chain 2, and we're going to join it back at the 3rd chain on our starting chain of 3, like that. Then we're going to pull it tight. Don't worry about it all wrinkling up, it just does that. It's absolutely fine. Then we're going to slip stitch to this chain space. So to slip stitch, pop your hook in, yarn over, pull it through, and pull this loop through this one. Do it again, and then into the chain space. Now into this chain space you are going to whack a cluster, chain 2 cluster, but first we do our chain 3. That counts as the first double of our first cluster. There's our 3rd, then chain 2, and then another cluster. These are your corners, so in every corner we do a cluster, chain 2 cluster. On this particular row we've only got corners, so we're going to do another cluster, then a chain 2, then another cluster. Remember, we don't chain in between this, we just whack the cluster, the double straight into the next cluster. Then we're going to chain 2, do your next cluster. I'm hoping you will have caught part 1 where I go quite a lot slower. If not, maybe go and find part 1 if I'm going too fast, because this is the second half of the crochet cardi, Hexi Cardi. So we're going to do our next cluster. Then we're going to do our cluster into this one. Chain 2, cluster, then our next cluster into this one. You'll see you're going to get a beautiful hexagon. Chain 2, and the next cluster. Now when we get to the end of this cluster, there's no chain 2 to join. We literally just slip stitch straight into the top of the chain. If it helps, use a stitch marker at the top to help you know where to go. that is your hexagon. So in each corner we have done a cluster, chain 2 cluster, cluster, chain 2 cluster, all the way around. Now we're going to slip stitch from here to the next chain space. There we go. So now we're at this chain space. This is a corner again, so we are going to do a chain 3, then we're going to do 2 doubles to make our first cluster, then a chain 2, then a cluster. Now the next space, it's not really a chain space, it's just a space made between the clusters, but we're going to use it and we're going to put 1 cluster in there. A cluster is just 3 double crochets, remembering that I use American terms and not UK terms. If you do use UK terms, then it's a treble. So there's our one in the middle. Now we're back to a corner, so we're going to do cluster, chain 2 cluster, and then we've got this space, not a chain space, but we're still going to use it. We're going to put 1 cluster in there, then we're going to go to our next corner, so we're going to do a cluster, chain 2 cluster, then we've got our next space, but it's not a corner, so it's just 1 cluster in there, then we're back to a corner. This will frill up and it won't sit straight, but that's absolutely fine, we don't want it to sit straight. Then another cluster. So that was a cluster, chain 2 cluster because we're at the corner. Then we've got another space, not chain space, it's not a corner, but we're just going to put 1 cluster in there. Then we're back to a corner, so we've got a cluster, chain 2 cluster. Then we've got a space, so we're going to put a cluster in there. Then we've got a corner, so it's a cluster, chain 2 cluster. And this is our last space of this round. We're just going to put 1 cluster in here. And then we are going to slip stitch to join at the top of our chain. Right, I'm going to do the next round with you and then I'm going to come back when it's finished, just so we remember what we need to do. Look, mine's frilling a little bit. Right, so we are going to slip stitch to this corner. This is the same for every round, no matter how big it is. We're going to slip stitch to this corner. We are going to do a cluster, chain 2 cluster. Then we're going to put a cluster into this space. It's not chain space, but we're going to put 1 cluster in there. We're going to put 1 cluster in there. Then we are going to put a cluster, chain 2 cluster in this corner. Cluster, 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 chain 2 cluster, 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 chain 2 cluster, cluster, cluster. Then in here we've got cluster, chain 2 cluster, 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 chain 2 cluster, 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 join. So let's do that and it's the same for every round. No matter how big it is, you need to go to however many rounds you did on the last half. Mine is 20, so far I've done 3. Yeah, let's get on with this round and then we will meet at the end. So we're going to slip stitch across, there we go. Now we're going to do our chain 3, 1 2 3, 2 doubles to make that a cluster, chain 2, another cluster, then we're at our space, so just 1 cluster, 1 cluster, then we're back to our corner, so we've got a cluster, chain 2 cluster, this is probably the, wow, this and part 1 are probably the longest parts of this crochet along. It's the most rows to do all at once. Oh, we're in a space, so we've got a cluster going in here. And we've got another space, so we've got a cluster going in there. Then we are at a corner, so we've got cluster, chain 2 cluster. I can see some red, so this is going to start going to pinky red soon. I'm using Sleigh Bells Bling because if you're not following along, basically my cardigan is going to be a Christmas cardigan. So we've got our cluster, chain 2 cluster. Now we need another cluster in here. Another cluster in here. And then in this one we've got cluster, chain 2 cluster because that's the corner. And then we've got our gap, so we've got another cluster in there. Another gap, so a cluster in here. Come on, be good. Then we're at the corner, so we've got cluster, chain 2 cluster. Then we've got our gap, so just a cluster in there. And then another cluster in here. Then we've got our corner, so we've got a cluster, chain 2 cluster. Lots of clusters, lots of chain 2s. Chain 2, and then another cluster. And then we've got another gap here, so we've got a cluster going in there. And a cluster going in this one. Then we join to the top of our chain. Now you just keep going in that sense the whole way around until you get to however many rows you need. If you remember in the first part we counted them, however many rows. I need to get to 20, so I've got quite a long way to go, but as you can see, by folding it in half, you are starting to get that this is the armpit, you're starting to get the cardigan sort of shape. So just keep going and I'll meet you at the end. So here I am, I'm nearly at the end of the 20th row. Got a couple more clusters to go. It's looking pretty good now. How's everyone else's looking? Just doing these last few clusters. Then when we get to the end, we're going to fasten off. No, we're not going to fasten off. No, we're not. Don't fasten off, guys. Repeat, do not fasten off. We are going to slip stitch to join, and then we're going to stitch mark ready for next week. That's what we're going to do. There we go. So that we're going to stitch mark ready for next week. And then what we're also going to do is pin the arm so that next week when we get, actually sorry, slip stitch to the end and then stitch mark. Here we go. I don't know what's going on with my brain today. Slip stitch, slip stitch, slip stitch to the corner space, then stitch mark. So we're going to put a stitch marker in there. That's going to hold our yarn ready for next week. And then we are going to turn it into the sleeves. We're going to do it inside out. And what I want is for this here, for the end to not be near the arms. So ideally I want it to be in this corner, so I'm just going to keep folding it. You probably didn't see that actually, look. I'm going to keep folding it until it's where I want. See, that's still at the bottom, but I sort of want it at the top. So I'm just going to keep flipping it around until I get it where I want it. That's the end of the arm. That's the wrong bit altogether. I will work this out. You think I've gone crazy, but here we go. Right, you see, it's here. It's at the pointy bit, which means we can work up, down, around, you see. And then what I'm going to do, so remembering that we want it inside out, because we're going to work it right side, wrong side next time. We are going to pin the arm together here so that we know that that is the sleeve. And then, ouch, just getting another stitch marker. We are going to pin it up here because next week when we work, we are going to, let me just pin this. We are going to work down, around, back round and up, and then turn it and keep going. This is what's going to add our width. So that's it for the end of this week, and hopefully I'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching, guys.